Hey, what's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. So today we are starting the 2023 Boxing Awards. It's my annual awards that I do every year, and this video is going to be on the upset of the year. Now, before we get into that, if you could smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel, I really do appreciate any and all support that I can get as I continue to build my channel here. So, how this works is we go division by division, all the divisions that I cover, which is 122 all the way to heavyweight, 12 divisions. I'm going to give you any candidates that might have been in each one of those divisions, go 122 all the way to heavyweight. If a fight made my, in this case, it would be my top 5. If I had any fight make the top 5, I'm not going to discuss it when I go through the division. I'll just say this fight's a finalist, and then we'll get to the division itself. I'll get to the fight itself when we do that. But if it was not a finalist, I will discuss the fight. So these videos tend to go on between 20 and 30 minutes. So I hope you hang in there because I really enjoy doing them. And let me know what you guys think. So let's start with the 122-pound division, where we did have a couple upsets there. First off, Marlon Tapales' split decision victory over MJ Marajan Akhmadaliev. That is a finalist, so we will discuss that when we get to that. The other one that made it, that was not a finalist, was Sam Goodman's 12-round split decision over Rais Aleem. Heading into this one, Aleem was a highly regarded 122-pound fighter. He's undefeated. Many people thought he was going to be the next, the next big deal to get in line for somebody like an Inoue. This fight took place on the Tim Tszyu Carlos Ocampo undercard in June, and Sam Goodman, an Australian fighter, was fighting at home, but nobody thought he was going to pull this one off. Aleem was a solid favorite going in, and it was a good fight all the way. It really was all the way through, and halfway through you can argue that it was close, that maybe Aleem was up. But in the second half of the fight, Sam Goodman found that extra gear, and he was able to outwork Rais Aleem to a 12-round split decision and become the new IBF mandatory #1 contender. So this was a pretty good upset right here for Sam Goodman. Definitely worth mentioning. 126, we had a couple candidates there. First was I counted this. Luis Alberto Lopez's 5th round TKO of Michael Conlan. Now, most people might not consider this an upset, but Michael Conlan was a solid, I don't know if he was the betting favorite, because I think it was pretty close, and with Lopez being the champion, he may not have been the betting favorite, but a lot of people thought that Conlan was going to win this fight, and myself included. But Luis Alberto Lopez blasted him in the 5th round with an uppercut, and really dominated and controlled the action in Conlan's home country of Ireland. So I was really impressed with Lopez's performance here. Definitely worth mentioning. The other candidate at 126 was Rafael Espinoza's 12-round majority decision over Robeisy Ramirez. That is a finalist, so I'm not going to discuss that right now. 130, we had O'Shaquie Foster's 12-round unanimous decision over Ray Vargas. Foster came in an underdog in this fight. Vargas, who was the undefeated featherweight champion, would be moving up to 130 to try to become a 3-division world champ. And a lot of people felt he was going to win this fight. But Foster, even though he was the underdog, I did pick him to win this fight. I thought stylistically, and the fact that he's more of the natural 130-pounder, he could outwork and outbox Vargas, and that's exactly what he did. But there was many that were surprised, because Vargas usually outworks and out-hustles his opponents, and Vargas went in there, or Foster went in there and outworked and beat Vargas to the punch. So this was an upset and a good one, as Foster became the WBC super featherweight world champion. Then there was Jordan Gill's 3rd round TKO victory over Michael Conlan. This one was definitely a surprise, because Conlan had been stopped by Luis Alberto Lopez, and then decided he was moving up to 130 to fight and start over at 130. And Jordan Gill kind of came out of nowhere. He was supposed to be a soft touch opponent, and he blasted Michael Conlan out in only 3 rounds. This was definitely a big upset right here for Jordan Gill, and a big win. 135. There was only one candidate, and it was Raymond Muratala's second round TKO of Jeremiah Nakathila. This was a good one. It didn't make my finalist. It wasn't one of my finalists, but it was definitely an upset because we already knew what Nakathila brought to the table, and he was coming off of his career best win, stopping Miguel Berchelt in 2022. So, and this was on the Devin Haney, Vasily Lomachenko undercard. So a lot of people, viewed this fight and thought Nakathila was going to win this one against Muratala, who kind of had, he really didn't have the experience yet. But Muratala went out there and absolutely destroyed Jeremiah Nakathila in only 2 rounds. Impressive win. Just missed out as being a finalist. 140. The only candidate I had there was Teofimo Lopez's 12-round unanimous decision over Josh Taylor to capture the WBO super featherweight title. I know that some people are going to be a little surprised by this, but this was an upset. Coming into the fight, Josh Taylor was still considered to be the top guy at 140, even though he had that subpar performance against Jack Catterall the year before. Most people chalk that up to him overlooking Catterall. So when Lopez came out, and Lopez had not looked very good in his previous fight against Sandor Martin. So there was a lot of people that were doubting Teofimo Lopez coming into this fight, and he was the underdog. A lot of people were picking Josh Taylor, myself included, to pull off the victory in this one over Teofimo Lopez. And Lopez surprised a lot of people, not just by winning, but by dominating Josh Taylor and handing him his first loss by a convincing 12-round unanimous decision. So definitely a big win right there for Teofimo Lopez, and it definitely was an upset. Not a major upset, but it was an upset. 147, I had 3 candidates there. So none of them were finalists, though. First off was Mario Barrios, his 12-round unanimous decision over Yordenis Ugas. Yordenis Ugas came in a solid betting favorite, but he hadn't fought in, I think it was about almost a year and a half when he ran into Mario Barrios. Mario Barrios' youth and his size really was the difference in this fight. But it was an upset, and he did win a considerable decision and become the WBC interim champion. And again, it was an upset, but I don't think it was a major upset, and that's why it didn't make my finalist. Next was Giovanni Santillan's 6th-round knockout of Alexis Rocha. I called this one. Santillan was undefeated. He hadn't really fought anybody, on Rocha's level. But Rocha more had fought, just had the better resume, which is why I felt Rocha was the, definitely was the favorite. But Rocha was also the #1 contender in the WBO. And I did call this fight in advance. I didn't pick Santillan to win, but I did say that Rocha definitely needed to not overlook Giovanni Santillan. And Giovanni Santillan just went out there and beat Rocha's ass. Really beat him up, dominated him, and stopped him in the 6th round. This was a good upset right here. So congrats to Santillan. Next was Romain Villa's 10-round split decision over Rashidi Ellis. Romain Villa was an undefeated but little-known fighter coming into this one. This one was on the Tank Davis, Hector Luis Garcia undercard that started the year. And Rashidi Ellis had just made my top 10. He was my number 10 welterweight in the world, was undefeated coming in. Ellis was the only guy at the time to hand Alexis Rocha a loss. So Ellis really had a lot going for him. And then, as I said, he ran into Romain Villa. Romain Villa went out there and outworked them, kind of outmuscled them, and got a 10-round split decision in what was definitely an upset because nobody had really heard of Romain Villa prior to this fight. Next at 154, the only candidate was Brian Mendoza's 7th round knockout of Sebastian Fundora. That is a finalist, so I took that. So we will discuss that when we get to the finalists. 160. We had Liam Smith's. We had two candidates at 160. Liam Smith, his 4th round TKO victory over Chris Eubank Jr. This wasn't a major upset, but Liam Smith definitely was the underdog coming in. Chris Eubank was considered the favorite. He banged around at 160, 168 most of his career, and Liam Smith was just kind of debuting at 160, and not a lot of people gave him it was close to a 50-50 fight. There were a lot of people picking Smith, but there were also a lot of people, our majority of people picking Chris Eubank, and myself was one of those. So when Liam Smith, especially the way he defeated him, that was impressive, stopping him in only 4 rounds. Chris Eubank wasn't a guy that had been really hurt at all in his career and had a great chin. And for Liam Smith to come in there and blast him out in 4 rounds, that was impressive, definitely an upset. The other candidate at 160 was Vicente Gualtieri's 12-round unanimous decision over Esquiva Falchao to capture the vacant IBF middleweight championship. Esquiva Falchao was the mandatory challenger for Triple G Gennady Golovkin at the beginning of the year, and he got moved into the title fight after Triple G vacated the belt, and his next available challenger was Vicente Gualtieri, a guy that not many people had heard of. So Falchao came in a solid betting favorite, and Gualtieri went out there and outworked him, out-hustled him, put Falchao down in the fight, and got a clean unanimous decision to claim the vacant IBF middleweight title. So definitely an upset. 168, there wasn't a candidate for an upset of the year. 175, I had one candidate, and that was Michael Eifert for his 12-round unanimous decision over former 2-time champion Jean Pascal. You would think a fighter at 40 years old, that wouldn't be considered an upset, beating a fighter like that, but Pascal is a guy that just drinks from the fountain of youth. It seems like the guy never gets old, and when you think he's old, he comes out and pulls off a victory. He had positioned himself after a win the year before over Fanlong Nang. Over Fanlong Nang, he had positioned himself to fight for the mandatory position in the IBF, and Michael Eifert from Canada would be his opponent. And Michael Eifert went out there and completely outboxed and outworked Jean Pascal to a convincing 12-round unanimous decision and became the mandatory himself. 200 pounds, cruiserweight. We had 2 upsets, both of them are finalists. Chris Billam Smith's 12-round majority decision over Lawrence Okoli, and Badou Jack's 12th round TKO victory over Ilunga Makabu. Both are finalists. We'll discuss those in a little bit. And then in the heavyweight division, we had 2 candidates. Both of these were also finalists. First was Zhilei Zhang, 6-round TKO of Joseph Parker. And the other one was Joe Joyce. And the second candidate was Joseph Parker's 12-round unanimous decision over Deontay Wilder. Both, again, are finalists. So now, after all those divisions, let's look at our finalists. I have a 3-way tie for 5th. So basically, seven fights made my final cut, made my finalists. I'm going to go from the way I have it written down, lowest to highest. Tied for 5th. The first is Badou Jack's 12th round TKO over Ilunga Makabu. Badou Jack is 39 years old. I think he's 40 now. He was coming into this fight on the Tyson, I think it was the Jake or Logan Paul fight in February. And Badou Jack had received this opportunity really after not doing much to earn it at 200 pounds. It was basically the WBC was rewarding him for being a name and being a world champion for them at 168. And he stepped in against Makabu, who Makabu was just a career cruiserweight. This is a guy that really had knocked out and been impressive. He wasn't that impressive in his previous bout, but prior to that, he had been impressive over the last 6-7 years. And it was a good, solid performance. So I gave it to this one. The way Jack came out, I mean, Makabu was a solid favorite. I thought just size-wise, veteran-wise, youth-wise, he was just going to break down the veteran Jack and stop him. But it was complete opposite. Jack completely outworked, out-hustled, outgunned, and beat up Ilunga Makabu and stopped him in the 12th round of a fight that he was well ahead on, so he didn't need to go for it, and he did. Impressively, to become a 3-division world champion at only 39 years old. Impressive ass win, and definitely an upset. Badu Jack over Ilunga Makabu. Tying him for 5th was Chris Billam-Smith's 12-round majority decision over Lawrence Okolie. Lawrence Okolie was the guy that nobody wanted to fight at 200 pounds. He was undefeated. He was coming off of a victory over David Light. New promotion under his banner, you know, not with Eddie Hearn anymore, and really hungry and looking at a potential unification bout in 2023. And Chris Billam-Smith was just thought to be, you know, kind of a stay busy fight, but, you know, an all UK battle. So Billam-Smith took this fight extremely serious and went out there and scored multiple knockdowns and outworked the tough Lawrence Okolie to a 12-round majority decision to become the WBO Cruiserweight Champion. Definitely an upset, a big-time win for Chris Billam-Smith right here to become world champion. And also tying for 5th was Rafael Espinoza's 12-round majority decision over Robeisy Ramirez to capture the WBO featherweight title. Robeisy Ramirez was rolling. He had only lost one bout that he avenged. He is a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, and he was rolling, and it was coming off of capturing the WBO title earlier in the year by defeating former champion Isaac Dogbe convincingly. He followed that up in Japan on the Inoue Fulton undercard, destroying some fighter out there, and really was rolling. But I had really, you know, Espinoza hadn't done anything to this point, but he was undefeated, had a good knockout record, but he hadn't beaten anybody even close to Ramirez's resume. But I was worried when I saw the height and reach advantage that Espinoza had. A 6-inch height advantage, 6-inch reach advantage. I thought that could spell trouble for Ramirez, and it did. He was outworking Ramirez, but then Ramirez landed a clean punch that put Espinoza down hard. The referee definitely could have called the fight because Espinoza was badly hurt, but he didn't. Espinoza weathered the storm and was able to get back in the fight and take the control back in the later rounds and walk away with a close majority decision in an upset to become the WBO featherweight champion. Big time win. Definitely a fight of the year candidate. Congratulations to Espinoza. Number 4 goes to Marlon Taplis for his 12-round split decision over MJ Marajan Akhmadaliev to capture the unified super bantamweight championship at 122 pounds. MJ was rolling. He was undefeated. He was a unified champ. Coming into the year, it was basically him and it was basically Stephen Fulton Jr. and him running neck and neck for the top spot, as they were both unified champs holding 2 belts apiece. Marlon Taplis was a mandatory former 118-pound champion, but at 122, he had already been in the ring with a guy that MJ knocked out in Ryosuke Iwasa a few years earlier, and Iwasa, you know, had stopped him. So heading into this fight, MJ totally, in my opinion, was overlooking Taplis, and the veteran Taplis, instead of bum rushing MJ, he boxed MJ and stood back and let MJ look for one punch at a time to try to knock him out, and he counterpunched well. His timing was great, and he outworked MJ. Even when MJ took over in the second half of the fight and was doing more, Taplis was still having his moment, still counterpunching well, and it led to a 12-round split decision where he became the unified champion in a major upset, scoring the biggest win of his career. So huge win right there for Taplis. Number 3 for upset of the year goes to Joseph Parker's 12-round unanimous decision over Deontay Wilder. This one could have been higher. Nobody was really giving Joseph Parker a chance in this fight. Deontay Wilder, his power alone is just something to be feared. And it was on the Day of Reckoning undercard as the co-feature. And a lot of people were picking Wilder to win this fight by knockout, myself included, because it was it was agreed upon in principle that if Wilder defeated Parker and Joshua defeated Otto Wallin in the main event, that the two would collide in March. We would finally get that big showdown. And most people were picking Wallin over Joshua in that fight. If there was going to be an upset at all, not a lot of people were picking Parker. But I did say in my breakdown, Parker needed to fight the perfect fight in order to win, and he did just that. He fought the perfect fight. He did not let Deontay Wilder extend his punches. When Wilder would set up to extend and throw that big right hand, Parker would lower his head and kind of step into Wilder to where he couldn't extend that punch, and he just outworked him and out hustled him in a battle of former champs and pulled off a big time upset, the biggest win of Parker's career, and also derailed the Joshua Wilder fight. So big time victory for Joseph Parker, finishes number 3. Number 2 goes to Zhilei Zhang for his 6th round TKO victory over Joe Joyce to capture the WBO interim heavyweight championship. Now, some people might say this wasn't that big of an upset because Zhang knocked him out in the rematch as well. I think that's bullshit. Joe Joyce coming into this fight was the most feared fighter, the boogeyman in the heavyweight division. Nobody wanted to fight him. He handled Joseph Parker, dominating him by a 10th round TKO, a 10th or 11th round TKO to become the WBO interim champion, and nobody was lining up to fight him. This for Joyce was basically supposed to be a stay busy fight, taking on Zhang, who really hadn't proven anything to this point either, outside of fighting 12 hard rounds of Filip Hrgović, but Hrgović hadn't done anything. So we really didn't know how good Hrgović or Zhang were heading into this fight. And again, this was supposed to be just a stay busy fight for Joe Joyce against Zhang, as Joyce waited around for a title shot. And Zhang would come out firing on all cylinders, 39, 40 years old, landing a big left hand that swelled up Parker's eye early, and he just plotted away at him, hitting him with big shots. And finally, the fight was stopped after 6 rounds. Zhilei Zhang scored a major upset with this victory to become the WBO interim heavyweight champion. Do not overlook this one because Zhang was a big underdog, and Joe Joyce, again, was the boogeyman in the heavyweight division. Nobody wanted to fight him. So, big time win. That almost finished number 1, but not quite. The upset of the year for me, hands down, was Brian Mendoza's 7th round knockout victory over Sebastian Fundora to capture the WBC interim super welterweight title at 154 pounds. Sebastian Fundora is the freak of 154, standing 6'5" and a half at 154 pounds. His wingspan is insane, and he fights like an all-out Mexican brawler. You know, he likes to get in there, he likes to mix it up. He was in the fight of the year, my fight of the year in 2022, trading knockdowns and finally stopping Erickson Lubin, beating him up badly in that fight. He followed that up with a hard-fought 12-round unanimous decision over Carlos Ocampo, but looked solid in that one. And Brian Mendoza, his claim to fame was a decision loss to Jesus Ramos in 2021. He hadn't done anything coming into this fight. He was full on a stay busy opponent, cannon fodder for Sebastian Fundora. He was supposed to be easy. And for the first 6.5 rounds, you know, Fundora was making it look easy. He was dominating the action, dominating the fight. And in the 7th round, though, a vicious left hook from Mendoza crippled Fundora. He started to fall, and then Mendoza landed a wicked right hand down the pipe following that flattened Sebastian Fundora. Major upset, major knockout victory, huge win for Brian Mendoza right here. Nobody saw it coming, and he walked away with the WBC interim super welterweight title. So absolutely, in my opinion, there's no doubt it is Fundora's 7th round knockout. There were some good ones here, but I had to go with with Brian Mendoza's 7th round knockout victory over Sebastian Fundora was my upset of the year in 2023. So that's it. This is my 2023 boxing awards on the upset of the year. And again, I gave it to Mendoza's 7th round knockout win over Sebastian Fundora. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, leave a comment, or subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any and all support. This is True Boxing. You've been hit with the truth.